Hello everyone. Today I'm really excited to introduce my friend and colleague Jim Diebley, who I'm a huge fan of, love the work that he does with the students. He is the middle school design teacher at Singapore American School, and I got the opportunity to sit down with him in his space and just chat with him about design thinking and its use in schools and in education. Hope you enjoy it. Thanks for having me and welcoming me to your space. Can you kind of introduce yourself and what you do?
Sure. My name is Jim Diebley. I'm a middle school technology ed teacher. I teach grades 6, 7, and 8. I teach in a trimester format. I teach in a semester format. Electives for kids. I've been doing this for 21 years here at SAS, and I've evolved over time in terms of the curriculum that I've taught and the activities that I conduct in my classes. So I do a lot of critical thinking challenges. We've been doing more personalized learning, kind of opening things up, loosening up a little bit, and letting kids a lot more choice and freedom of what they want to do. But really, it's it's an opportunity for kids to have access to tabletop tools and machines that they don't ordinarily have access to here in Singapore. Very few people have backyards, basements, or garages here.
Right.
And I'm a firm believer that that's where a lot of the magic happens.
Yeah. So I kind of wanted to chat with you about design thinking because I know you use that in your class. To you, what is design thinking? Like, how would you kind of describe it?
Design thinking really is just it's a process. It's a lens to be able to look through. If you talk about David Kelly is the Stanford Design School founder. He's the IDEO founder. He's kind of the guy that really got this thing going. He said, look, this is really a process. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if you're into rocket ships or if you're into tractors. This is a process. We're taking people through this process of design thinking to get them to whatever solution that they want. So
right.
It's a process, really.
Yeah.
I mean, you can have different geometric shapes. You can have different words, and there's websites kind of mocking this, that everybody wants their own words and shapes and arrows and whatever. But at the end of the day, it really is a process that you can move yourself through to solve problems.
Yeah, it's pretty cool how David Kelly took this process and basically said, "Oh, let's apply it to a whole bunch of different problems."
Everything. Yeah, that's it.
And so, you equipping your students with design thinking, like, how do you think that's helped them?
It's interesting. I've been doing this now for a few years, and I have kids that are in the high school that have been going through the Catalyst and some of the advanced topic, and these kids are coming back to me and saying, hey, look, I didn't necessarily know or didn't necessarily like this or whatever, but here I am. I'm in the high school, and I'm using some of those things that I learned with you, in our middle school experience, and this is helpful for me, and that really is the feedback that I want to hear and to know. It's like, oh, okay, you might not always see the success here, but moving forward, you are, and it's that process that they're going through that is enabling them to be successful. So
I mean, for me, being in elementary and trying to model the whole process, I'm always constantly thinking, or what motivates me is like, what if they keep doing it until 12th grade? They're doing it from kindergarten all to 12th grade. What type of mindsets will they have? What type of confidence and the courage to act will they have? So that kind of excites me. Could you? One thing that I'm always impressed, but like there's just a handful of people I like to follow and kind of follow their work and what the students are doing. Your account definitely on Instagram is something that I enjoy looking at, and it's because I don't know if you feel the same way, but I'm always impressed by teachers who push the limits of what was thought, like what students are able to do. And so looking at the space and watching your students work, I was just blown away because I didn't think middle school kids, I made the assumption they weren't capable of doing the stuff that they're doing here. And you see that a lot of classes where they do that, where you're just kind of in awe of what the students produce. Is that something that motivates you in what you do, or?
I mean, like I said, I've been doing this for a while, and
Yeah.
I'm continually looking at ways I can be more efficient about distributing materials or how I can implement activities. I mean, for me, I don't necessarily subscribe to kits and kit learning. I see a lot of that's being emphasized as, whatever. I like to do things from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to pull things just off the shelf and use them wholesale.
Right.
I'm not a believer in the teacher doing things for them for PR purposes. I want kids to do this.
Right.
If it's messy, if it's ugly, and it's unsuccessful, well, it's their messy, ugly, unsuccessful. So
Right.
I'm continually trying to change things up. Of course, I want them to be successful.
Yeah.
But I'm pulling different things in, and I'm letting them do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I show them a range of tools and machines and processes and maybe some new tech features, and then I let them put these things together and create the magic.
All right.
Honestly, if teachers would step back and loosen up the reins a little bit, kids can make magic.
Absolutely.
They can make magic. And I'm lucky I'm in a content area or a class that is not a required class. There's no teacher after me that says, well, they didn't learn X, Y, Z.
Mm-hmm.
I can oftentimes move with the energy of the kids. I can change things up. Something's not working, I can pull it out. I can try something different.
Right.
I survey my kids with Google surveys. I get feedback. Did you like that? Do you think this is working? At the end of the trimesters and semesters. And for the most part, our kids here at SAS are really quite mature in that area.
Mm-hmm.
They'll give you feedback. They will be honest about themselves. So I read this stuff over the years, and I've made changes, and this is why we're kind of this hybrid, interesting, eclectic program that we are, because I think that I've morphed it into what I think that our kids need.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, most of our kids, we live in an urban society here. They don't have those backyard, basement, and garage experiences that I mentioned, and I can see it over time. Say in my grade 7 classes, just handling, the tools and the machines, and, they get to a point, then all of a sudden they get over the hump, and you can see them using it confidently. And I recently had a compliment from a high school teacher, Meredith White, our robotics, and she was saying, wow, the kids coming up, they feel comfortable with the tools, and it's like, okay, I'm teaching them how to use multimeters and vernier calipers and these kind of things. So critical thinking, and there seems to be a point where kids just get comfortable with it. You can see it in the way they work in the lab. So I'm comfortable to let things move forward and watch. And I mean, I find that my job is really kind of an observationalist, to be honest with you. I like to park myself, and I would just sit and watch and move, my eyes and around, and just like sort of home in on the conversations and just watch. You mentioned the Instagram thing. The Instagram is really for me. It just happens that parents and kids and other teachers are looking at it. But we set it up. We did the hashtags of our school DSLOs, which is our also content area. So when I'm in here and I'm working and I got time, or if I'm thinking about it, I'll say, okay, what's happening at that table? Well, I see a lot of communication. I see a lot of collaboration. Okay, critical thinking. And I'll try to tag those things. And then I go back and I sort of get a feel for where are my blind spaces? What do I feel like I'm missing here? You know what I'm saying? So it's usually really a tool for me to be able to see what we're doing. And then I trade notes with my colleague who's actually teaching a different content area. So we can sort of talk about these things and reflect.
Yeah. I mean, what you just described right now, it sounds like the teacher is actually a designer, and you're doing empathy work where you're making observations and finding needs, and then you talked about how you're constantly now thinking about improvements, the iteration part. So,
I mean, you look around the room, almost everything in here has been made by me or designed in terms of height and distribution, and it's just something like this. This was a design thinking activity with 8th grade kids, and this has come to fruition. Here's the challenge. Like, I, as a teacher, have 24 of these things. They're expensive. At the end of the period, I want to know that I have 24 of them at the end.
Right.
Other than throwing them in a box and you have no idea, how can we inventory these? So this was the design challenge. The kids came up with a cardboard prototype. They had like a plexiglass front, and if you look at my Instagram, and you're way back, you'll be able to see it. You see the top. So this is kind of an iteration. It's also involving 3D printing skills, measuring skills. How do we do this? If you look at the colored tabletops, I've got a little canvas guy. I have colored tables. If you look at my storage bins, I've 3D printed. These are all color coded.
Mm-hmm.
If you take a look at distribution, like, okay, these are colored. I can look at these and say, okay, there's a red one missing. If I'm assigning these colors by team, I can tell you who's missing the cardboard.
Right.
So
Right.
this is constantly me trying to figure out how to outsmart middle school kids. And I joke with them that that I try to idiot-proof my room. That might not sound very politically correct, but
Yeah.
it's like I'm always like, how could middle school kids screw this up? Like, how
Wow,
could I?
that's a lot of trying to understand the end user who are the students.
Well, kids are changing. Like I
Yeah.
said, parents keep upgrading the.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just when I think that I might be getting close, it's like, oh. And this is the thing. I see the kids changing, even with the iPad generation, and
Mm-hmm.
how kids interact with technology and how they move. And maybe it's the age thing, too. As my age gap increases with the kids, it's just like, I do have my own young children,
Yeah.
so I feel like I'm kind of tuned in, but what do kids have exposure to? And I find that as we go through time, kids have less and less exposure, at least our clientele here,
Mhm.
of how things are made or how things go together. And it's pretty shocking to me, really.
Yeah.
But if you live in a high-rise condo and you don't have the backyard, basement, or garage, typically our parents are probably renting. They don't ever fix anything in the house. They
Right.
just call somebody to
Absolutely.
do it. So
Yeah, that was my.
it's not
household.
it's not a knock on the kids, really. It's
Yeah.
just the product of their environment. And
Right.
our kids are pretty smart and they can ramp up pretty easily. But when I give a demonstration, I'll give a verbal demonstration. I'll give one so you can see what I'm talking about. And I've come out before, and it's like, how could you have done that? Like,
Mhm.
and genuinely, they're not messing around or they're not trying to pull a prank on me. It's just like, oh wow, like,
Yeah.
who would have thought that?
Right.
I explained to you. Maybe you're not an auditory learner. I visually learn it. Like, we do it, and then it's like, oh, how did that happen?
Right.
So,
And then the next time you kind of improve the way you.
so it's like, okay, what did I miss out?
Yeah.
In the afternoon, I have a teaching assistant. He's actually supposed to be a lab assistant, but more teaching assistant because
Okay.
he's younger.
Mhm.
And we often debrief afterwards, like, oh, okay, I messed that one up, or maybe I should have done this.
Right.
And it's like, so, and he's training to be a teacher, so
Okay.
that's helpful for him as well. But
Okay.
we trade notes, going, okay, maybe we should do it this way next time, or
Right.
what'd you think about that? And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, chaotic, sixth graders.
Thanks for watching this video. Special thanks to Jim for allowing me to come to his space and talk to him about design thinking. Please follow him on Instagram. Also, if you're interested in learning about design thinking and also implementing it into your classroom, please check out my book, Design Thinking in the Classroom. The link is in the description below. So until next time, peace.